Welcome to Activations with JJ Energy Update for the month of March 2022. The themes I will be bringing out in this episode are heightened awareness, angelic presence on the planet, the idea of free will, and continued deprogramming. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to dive into this episode. Hello, my dear soul family. Thank you so much for joining me. I know I have lots of new listeners out there, and I just want to give you a great big welcome and let you know that I am so grateful that you've come to co-create here. I don't know if you can feel the energy of everybody who's gathered here in a common vibration. And the tone that I always set with my podcast episodes is one of love and unity. I am trying my very best to leave the programming that we've had of duality and to step into a world where we are able to see the bigger picture. And that is my goal with all of the episodes. So if anything happened a couple of days ago, I was going on a trip, and so I decided to listen to a podcast from someone who I respect very greatly, and that is Lee Harris. He's one of my very favorite channelers. Lee is always posting a monthly energy update. I went to listen to his update, and then all of a sudden, it occurred to me that I had not posted a monthly energy update. As you know, starting in January 2022, I decided to post monthly energy updates rather than weekly energy updates. And I kind of shifted gears. And so I asked Spirit, I was like, how did this fall off my radar? And Spirit said, you're shifting timelines and you need to wait until you've shifted timelines to create your March energy update. So here I am. It's 8 days into March. So I know that we've already run through some of this month, but I want you to hang out with me here, see if anything I say resonates, even though we're already a little ways through the month. I think that I can bring some things to the table that will help you, as many of us are honestly struggling a little bit right now with some of the vibrations on the planet. Now, I have already given messages this month pertaining to some of the current events. Last week, I did post a message from the Galactic Federation. Some of the themes which they brought up are also themes that I will bring up today. And so as you heard me kind of list those off, we're going to dive into those. I just have to make a couple of quick announcements. The first one has to do with the fact that on Sunday, March 13th, I will be starting my angelic activation school. This is going to be an amazing group ongoing session. So it's 4 one-hour sessions in a group where I will be bringing through and channeling different angels. That's a theme for this month, by the way, and it's not very surprising that they asked me to do angelic activation school during March. But if you want to find out more about what it entails, how you can join, just click on the link below. In addition to that, in just 4 short days, I will also be doing a Galactic Federation gathering. The interesting thing about that is usually I try to cap the amount of participants in that to 12. When I went to just explore how many people were registered to check things out, Spirit said to me, why are you limiting yourself to the amount of people that can co-create with this? Open this wide open. So I've lifted any kind of cap on the amount of people that can join my Galactic Federation gathering. I would love for you to join. I would love for your friends to join. I would love you to tell anybody and everybody. We are working more closely with the Galactic Federation. And the more we step into the energy, whether you're new to this or not, the more we step into the energy of collaboration with them, the faster we're going to shift into a timeline of unity consciousness, unity as humanity, and unity in our galactic family that we are part of, and that we have just had a veil, right? We've just kind of been in a state of unknowing. And so that's where we're at with connecting with the Galactic Federation. The link to sign up is below. All right. Speaking of some of the themes, I've already brought out some of the themes that I mentioned, which makes me laugh because there's just so many synchronicities for these themes for March. But the first one I want to talk about is heightened awareness, which again, for me, sometimes that means remembering. I've been working with so many people, and Spirit says, you're just activating memories. You're activating memories. And I feel like I need to tell them, I am not going to tell you something new. I am literally just going to jog your memory, and your soul is going to remember it. And as I work with people in the one-on-one sessions, it's fascinating to see these synchronicities pop up for them and things resonate. And I 100% attribute it to the fact that I have began to invite their guides in to activate their memories, lift the veil of forgetting that we have when we come down to the planet, and allow them to see the big picture. Allow them to see the big picture. Now, something very interesting that came up when I was listening to another podcast, it might have been Lee Harris, I'm not sure, but somebody mentioned the fact that those of you who are feeling more, you're feeling maybe depressed, like you've done a lot of work yourself and you're like all of a sudden just going down into the state of depression or like extreme emotions. Part of the reason that is happening is not because they're yours. It's because you have a heightened awareness of what's going on with the collective. We are shifting into a time of unity consciousness, and our awareness is being heightened about the fact that we're all connected. So I want you to remember that when you feel something, and I've talked about this over and over again, other intuitives talk about this too, is it my personal stuff that I'm feeling, or is it the collective? You always have a choice how much you want to transmute or process at any given moment in time. The only way that I can do what I do by co-creating with so many people in so many sessions from all over the world is because I choose how much to co-create and I put myself first. This is deprogramming. Spiritual people don't have to be martyrs. I talked about this last week when I think I brought up Jesus. And we have this religious programming that tells us that if you're a spiritual person, you have to be a martyr. And I truly believe that's somewhat connected to the story of Jesus that we're taught, right? That he was a highly spiritual person and he ended up dying, right? He ended up dying on a cross, and that he had to sacrifice his life that way. That is not how it has to be for you. First of all, that's the timeline that they're tapping into. There's another timeline where that didn't happen, and that kind of blows my mind a little bit, but I'm feeling to channel that for you right now. There's another timeline where that didn't happen for Jesus. He grew old and he died naturally like that. Or there's other ones where he didn't even grow old, where he stayed young and continued to teach on the planet. So I want you to think about the fact that just because you're a spiritual person doesn't mean you have to be a martyr, doesn't mean you have to be all in all the time, tuned in all the time. Give yourself some breaks. Check out for a while in a healthy way and cope through self-care. Okay? That's kind of my lecture for those of you who are light workers out there. I just want to remind you of that because it can be hard. All right, the angelic presence is the second theme I want to bring out for March 2022. I kid you not, it has come forward so many times. I feel like I am now becoming a magnet for those of you who are extremely connected to the angelic realms. As I read people's starseed families, I may feel like you're connected to a particular race, like Lyran, Pleiadian, Arcturian. Some of you are very strongly connected to those races. People have been coming in lately where Spirit says, oh no, they're not any of those. They're angels. This is their first time on the planet. You may be listening to this, and if you're one of the people who I've met in a session lately, I promise you this is not common. This is not something that's come up since I started doing sessions. I have not had as many people in the last 2 weeks that came from the angelic realm as I've had in the whole several months, years that I've been doing work. So there's something going on where so many of you are awakening to who you are. Signs that you're an angel or from the angelic realm, or this is your first time on the planet. And by the way, you can read more about some of this in Dolores Cannon. And she talks about the waves of volunteers, okay? There are angels who've come down. And the interesting thing is the word that comes to my mind is fallen angel. But I want to tell you what, it's not fallen on accident. It's fallen because they stepped down their vibration. They step down their vibration in order to become embodied. And most of these people have a really tough time in their bodies. They have a tough time, and a lot of them I'm noticing are disconnected. But here's the thing. They're coming, and I feel like so many of you are ready to become fully embodied and come in your glory and come in your vibration that is now going to be raised because the planet is raising in vibration. So you can survive here. There is part of your soul that is still kind of hanging out, waiting to be invited in. And the angelics have a different soul evolution or soul journey than people who I do multidimensional soul integration with. In addition to that, there are some people who are hybrid angels. So if you feel drawn to angels and starseed races, it gets complicated, I know. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just want you to know that it's a theme. It's a theme. And so I hope to be able to produce future episodes. I know there's one I know there's an activation I want to put out here coming up soon from the angelic realm. And timing is everything. And I know that there's divine timing because I haven't done it yet, but I had this download that I needed to do this particular thing. So look for that. All right, free will is the next theme. That came out in last week's Ascension message from the Galactic Federation about free will and about shifting timelines. Here's the thing. It's vitally important that you understand that our free will is key on this planet right now. There are other planets and other existences where it's not the same. But over and over again, especially with Dolores Cannon and even Sal Rochelle, they refer to the fact that we have free will on Earth. It's kind of a playground where we get to experiment with free will. It has its pros and it has its cons. But that being said, whenever you start to get some of the programming creeping in, like you feel like people need to be forced to do things or come into a certain vibration, I want you to remember that's not the rules of the game here. That's not the rules of the game. The interesting thing for me is I feel like the masculine approach, even the toxic, sort of more toxic, low vibrational masculine approach to convincing people to do something is by force. Could there be another possibility on this planet on how to get people to raise their vibration and how to get people to voluntarily shift into a higher vibration, to shift into unity consciousness and shift into peace? Absolutely. I won't go into detail, but recently I was working with someone in we were astral traveling, doing healing work on the planet, and we did something with the Galactic Federation where we felt like they were coming in with some more masculine energy approaches and policies and tactics. They still honor free will, but the way they were trying to fix things on the planet, not really fix, but help us shift, was very masculine. And I felt this really strong desire to step in and present to them an idea of how to convince people and how to shift into the divine feminine to allow the ascension to occur through the energy of the divine feminine. And again, this is something that you can see live and in person on the 12th of March. I actually do it every month. Okay, so if you miss the 12th of March, that's fine. But I literally work with the Galactic Federation, co-creating with them and stepping into my sovereignty to propose plans to help people ascend in a more divine feminine way. It's kind of interesting because I used to just go to the Galactic Federation and say, I'm here to work. What can you have me do? But now I go to them and say, hey, I have an idea on how to shift this or that on the planet. What do you think? And we work together to use some of the different forces, but teams, we'll call them teams, the different teams that they have, that they will kind of give me permission to work with. And I utilize those teams to bring through some different ways to create healing and ascension on the planet. I know that's kind of not super detailed, but I hope that that makes sense. And maybe some of you have actually done that before too. All right, the last theme for the month of March 2002 is carrying over from other months, but it's been very common in my sessions. And that is the theme of deprogramming. Deprogramming. There are so many programs running in human beings, in our DNA, that our awareness is going to be brought to, and we're going to feel as if we're ready to reprogram. It may feel uncomfortable when you get there, and you may not know that you're ready to be reprogrammed or ready to accept a different program. But you're going to be drawn to do different things and make shifts in certain ways. And you'll know, sometimes spirit will say, this is part of your deprogramming. I mean, I've been going through it myself. I have personal programs running from just ancestral lines and generational things that I'm doing. I'm sometimes drawn to do the weirdest things that they're not like spiritual things. They're just 3D things, like buy a certain thing or do a certain thing for myself. And spirit's like, oh, the reason why we're sort of inspiring you to do these things is because this is part of your deprogramming. When you do this act, you are beginning to undo the programs. Sometimes I feel like it's as above, so below. So when we change our outer circumstances, the inner happens. Sometimes when we change the inner, the outer happens. So deprogramming can happen from the outside in and the inside out. So if you feel a crazy impulse to eat a certain food or go somewhere, like even on a trip, I want you to consider the fact it might be part of your deprogramming. One of the teams and the races that I work with very closely with deprogramming, and that I want to invite you to also consider working with, is the Arcturians. The Arcturians are extremely adept at working with our DNA, as are the Pleiadians, but they seem to be the most efficient at it. Usually when I'm working with somebody to do some deprogramming and their higher self guides me to do it, I will ask if we can work with the Arcturians. They always honor our free will. Speaking of free will, they always honor our free will. They always ask for permission and the consent of the person they're working with, but they have some extremely advanced tools and devices that are very, very effective at doing some of this reprogramming. Okay, so that kind of wraps up my messages for the month of March 2022. I am extremely appreciative of those of you who've been here. For those of you who have recently come over from Instagram or TikTok, thank you so much for joining me here on YouTube. I would love it if you could provide an energy exchange. If you got anything at all from this episode, of the simple like and subscribe, which will allow this message to get out to more and more and more of the collective as we begin to rise in our vibration together, and we begin to just really tackle this ascension head on. Despite everything that's going on, it's always about momentum. It's about the majority. And when we get sidetracked and distracted by low vibrational things that are being healed on the planet, the momentum can slow down. So I want you to remember it's okay to put some of your energy to some of these things that are happening on the earth that are low vibration, but always go back to that goal. Always go back and look forward and move on and continue your journey personally. That is what I want to drive home today. So thank you again. I am sending you so much love. I would love to see you at a Galactic Federation gathering, at Angelic Activation School, or anything else that I have coming up. It would be my honor to co-create with you in those spaces as well. Here I am, closing out, making sure that you know that I honor the divine being that you are.